And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to day number 4. Day number 4 of the WTL 2023 Winter Code A. I'm, of course, your host, Live VIP. And with me, I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat, by my plushies, and by Kuro handling the production. And we are 4 days into Code A. We have already said goodbye to some pretty big teams. Again, a big team that did leave us, or the two teams that left us last night, was Team Little Fairy and Team Roddy, aka Trotty. So they will no longer be a part of Code A, and we are here to determine who makes it through into the upper bracket finals. Up first, we have Twisted Minds versus Matcherino Esports, followed by the Kwangdong Freaks versus Berserker Esports. The games, the quality of matches, they just get better and better. And there's, of course, a lot of hype behind a lot of these things. So there's wondering how Code A works. We have, of course, our teams coming in. 8 teams come in. Only 3. Top 3 do qualify. They make it all the way and qualify for Code S, the main event, which is going to be starting in a couple of weeks. And that's where the big teams, the big dogs are. Teams like Dragon Kaizi Gaming, Team Basilisk, Onside Gaming, to name a few. So some hefty names, some big heavy hitters are waiting for these up-and-coming teams. And yeah, here you can see the lineups here for tonight. So it's going to be 2 best of 7s. The way that this Team League matchup works is it's a best of 7, but to comprise the best of 7, you have a bunch of best of 2s sprinkled in with a best of 1 ace match at the very end. If, of course, the game or if the series goes that long, it's first to 4. First to 4 wins, essentially. It's how a best of 7 works. And yeah, up first, Twisted Minds versus Matcherino Esports. Of course, Twisted Minds, for a couple of months now, they have been sponsoring, they have been supporting Classic. Classic was their only player for a long time, but for this season of WTL, Twisted Minds, they have grown their roster, they have reached out, and they have acquired some new players to help support Classic. So Classic is still the ace player, but he's got some pretty big names alongside him. Some surprising names as well. I won't harp on this too much, but I was a little bit surprised upon seeing the lineup. I was really expecting and anticipating Twisted Minds to pick up some of the ex-Team NV players, because Team NV did disband. So I was expecting, a Cure, or a Creator, or a DRG, a Gumiho even, but alas, no. Instead, we have these 2 players. We have YoungYakov and Nicoract. It looks like Twisted Minds, they have reached out into the European player pool instead, and this is going to be an interesting one. Again, YoungYakov is on fire. Recently, a couple of days ago, he 2-0'd Bunny. He 2-0'd Bunny in a ZVT, and YoungYakov, he was looking good, he was looking powerful, he was looking confident. But how is his ZVP looking? Up first, we have YoungYakov versus Nightmare, followed by Nicoract versus Future, and then we end the night, or we end this series off with Classic versus Astrea. Here we go. Of course, up first, we have that ZVP. Nightmare was a recent pickup from Matcherino. I just talked about how Team NV disbanded, and a bunch of players were kind of sent out. I should also reiterate the Creator, he's still on Club NV, he's still technically on a team. Nightmare was also a part of the Team NV roster, and as he was released out into the wild, Matcherino, they were able to catch him, and a very big pickup for Matcherino Esports to really round out their team that don't just have to rely on Astrea and Future. Arguably, Nightmare is now their new ace player. In certain aspects, I would probably rate him a little bit higher than Astrea, so yeah, it's going to be quite a tough match here for YoungYakov, going up against arguably the ace player of Matcherino. Arguably, because, I'm sure in the next season of GSL, I'm sure we'll get a better read on what Astrea's form is looking like. That's another thing to bear in mind. Astrea last night did compete. He did compete in the GSL qualifiers, and he made it through, and he took down some big names. He took down some big names to do so. So Astrea, he is on fire. He is in peak condition, and we can get into Astrea later on. we'll get inside Max Angel later on in the night, but we got to warm up to that. We got to work through all these other players first, and yeah, this is going to be a really exciting ZVP. We got to see YoungYakov really shine against Terran earlier. We saw him take down Dark a couple of months ago on this channel in the OSC midseason playoffs. YoungYakov, he looks so damn good against Dark in that ZVZ. But what about the ZVP? And here we go in the top left-hand corner of Babylon. We have the blue Zerg player representing Twisted Minds. It is YoungYakov. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss representing Matcherino Esports. It is Nightmare. Also, I kept saying Team Envy. True, I meant to say Abydos. I'm tired, Papi. The brain is not. It's not all there. So, smudge. But yes, I meant to say Abydos. Slash Team Envy. Yeah, either or. If you know, you know. Regardless, we are getting into this, and so far everything's looking quite normal. Something to take note of is that there's a drone across the map. It was not a 15 hat. I was about to bring up that we didn't have a 15 hatch opener here from YoungYakov. Instead, we have a hatchery across the map. Technically a hatch first, but YoungYakov is looking to delay the expansion here of his opponent. Interesting. It's a hatch gas pool opener, not a pool after this. So still very economic, not too aggressive from YoungYakov. The goal here to force 6 boys off the line, 6 probes off the line, a lot of lost mining time, and a big delay here on the expansion. So honestly, I'm getting vibes here of YoungYakov versus Bunny, where YoungYakov, he's kind of dictating the pace of the game. He's dictating the pace, he's setting the stage here for game number 1, really trying to make Nightmare as uncomfortable as possible. And the goal here is to cancel. Like, we're not going to allow this to finish. We're not going to make anything with this. We're not, like, rushing. We're just delaying the economy of the Protoss. And it's going to be close, but we will need to cancel. We can also throw down an Evo Chamber as well, and we do not get the Evo Chamber. Zealot comes in, and the drone is forced out. We can see it going to delay the Nexus a little bit longer there as it does patrol around the base location. And we tried to go for a gas steal, doesn't quite get it, unfortunately, but the drone will be dealt with. We have 6 slings on the way, and YoungYakov was forced to take the unnatural natural. Of course, YoungYakov, he now needs to deal with what he has kind of forced out of his opponent. Nightmare, he was forced to make a Zealot, and now an Adept. So he's going to have an abundance of units here in the early game, and he's going to make use of it. Meanwhile, YoungYakov, likewise, he doesn't just make Lings, that is a Baneling Nest. And there's no reason to throw down a Baneling Nest this early on unless you intend to use it. He's going for a Bane Bust. So we start off delaying the economy, and now we're going for a big all-in. Nightmare, he has not seen this. Not yet. He does have an Adept out on the map. He's going to be going for a Scout. He's going to be getting eyes on the hatchery location, and everything is going to be looking normal so far. He needs to get into the main. He needs to spot these Lings as they come out. And so far, he sees nothing. The Adept does head towards the natural base. He's going to come across 4 Lings, which is normal. 4 Lings, even up to 6 Lings, would make a lot of sense in this scenario, in this situation. The Adept doesn't commit to the Shade. We will not get eyes on the Baneling Nest. And as a result, Nightmare, he's in a lot of trouble. Banelings are on the way. The wall is being checked once again. The Shade is looking to commit this time. Doesn't get a Ling. Is going to wedge himself between these middle patches. And once again, he doesn't go for the Scout. Banelings are walling on forward. And the Zealot is going to go down. Oh god! The probe tries to throw down another pylon. It looks like it will just barely get the pylon. But on the wrong side of the wall, a lot of surface area. It goes down. And the Lings, they flood on in. Oh god, we do have 2 Adepts here. One of them gets surrounded. There's only 1 Adept left. Oh my god, a Baneling is on the way. I love it. It's a part of the wall to deny the wall as well. The Adept will go down. The pylon thereafter. And that's going to be game. Without these gateways, there's nothing for Nightmare to do. Nothing for him to make. He does have an Immortal on the way. The Immortal is going to be his only army unit. And here we go, YoungYakov. He's going straight for the jugular, straight for the main base. We have a couple of sentries. Sentries did barely morph in. Warp in even. Oh god! Massive Baneling connection on all those probes. We have 2 more Banelings waddling into the mineral line as well, and they will connect. Massive connections. 17 probes go down. And even if this Immortal cleans up all these Lings, this is game-ending damage. We target down the shield battery. It will fall as well. And YoungYakov, so far being the star player of Twisted Minds, will take game number 1. GG. Oh, Boppy. YoungYakov popping up here tonight as well. And YoungYakov, I can't believe my eyes. I'm getting Firefly vibes. For those of you that were here for the previous season of WTL, there were certain players and certain teams that caught our eye. And the big one was the Starving Camels. The Starving Camels, they were really just such a fun team to watch going throughout the team league, and they made it all the way to the playoffs. They really had like a Cinderella story. No one believed in the Starving Camels. They had some pretty unknown players. I say unknown, just some lesser players compared to these big stars of like Shopify Rebellion or these other teams. And we really got to see these gems, these players really shine brightly on the Starving Camels and even on other teams as well. You know, we have Dimaga for Berserk Esports. It's another good example. And I'm getting that vibe here from YoungYakov as well, where he's punching up quite hard. And a big reason for that, I'm sure, is preparation. A big difference about WTL compared to other tournaments is that you have a day to prepare. You have more than a day to prepare once you get into the proper leagues. But YoungYakov, he has had time to go over his opponent, study his opponent, come up with a plan, come up with a strategy. And clearly, that was well prepared here for YoungYakov. He was able to hide it, execute it, and take game one against arguably the star player of Matcherino Esports. GG. GG, well played. YoungYakov going to be taking a lead in this series. He's already done what he needs to do. He already took a game. That's already good enough. Can he go further? In the bottom left-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have, for Twisted Minds, the blue Zerg player. It is YoungYakov. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ancient Cistern, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player representing Matcherino Esports. It is Nightmare. Let's go. I'm catching up with the chat. Adolescent Yakov, the new GOAT. It's beautiful, Bobby. It's beautiful. I mean, yeah, YoungYakov, he is looking so good here in these qualifiers. It really does bode well. Clearly, Twisted Minds, their pickup here has been well worth it. You know, I was talking about how, like, I was expecting like a DRG or a Cure or a Gumiho. It's like, nah, mate, YoungYakov. The value pick here for Twisted Minds, doing so well so far in Code A. Can he go further? Can he keep this run going? If he were to 2-0 Nightmare, that would be insane. That would be an insane blow to Matcherino Esports, and that would really set up Twisted Minds for success coming into this series and coming into Code S in general as well. So, yeah, so far, really good performance here from our Zerg player. Again, I want to praise him because I want to say that, like, again, he's already done more than what I think a lot of people expected of him. So we'll see what else he's got. We shall see. YoungYakov, not so young anymore. He's getting old. Old Yakov. I don't want to go that far. I don't want to go that far. Oh god. What's kind of what's the middle of the road? You have young, you have old, you have preteen? No. Teen Yakov? Adolescent Yakov it does sound good. It does sound good. Adult Yakov? Oh, maybe. Regardless. So far, Hatch Gas Pool Opener, very economic here from our Zerg player. So far, a much more standard setup. Meanwhile, I didn't get to talk about the map selection, but for those wondering, in this best of 2 format, the first map is predetermined. You do have plenty of time to prepare for the first map, as it is known ahead of time. When it comes to the second map, that is the loser's pick. And for Nightmare to go for Ancient Cistern makes plenty of sense. This tells us that, hey, Nightmare, he really does feel like he needs some breathing room. He wants YoungYakov to back the hell up. He's like, mate, this guy just all in me. I need to breathe. I need some time to myself. I need some space. You know, that YoungYakov, he's too needy. And Nightmare, he needs, he needs a break. We need to go on a break. So Nightmare basically going for one of the larger maps, the more standard macro-oriented maps in the map pool. Oh, the Adept does make it across the map. Does get 1 drone kill already. And it looks like it shouldn't get a second, as it does shade away. And we have a Stargate opener from our Protoss player, as to be expected, a standard opener from Nightmare. Nightmare, talking about him as a player a little bit, he is more of an aggressive player, but typically he's aggressive in the mid game. He's not one to cheese. He's not one to one or He sometimes 2-base all-ins, but more often than not, he goes up to 3 bases, and if he is going to be aggressive, I imagine like an 8-gate all-in off of 3 bases, or something like, a quadruple Colossus timing, for example. Sometimes even a Twilight Council after this into Glaive Adepts. Oh, as YoungYakov is being hyper-aggressive once again, that's a fast lair. That is what was that, a 3-minute 50 lair timing? Jesus, a very fast lair here for YoungYakov. Queens are in production, Lings are on the way. Only 1 gas has been taken. This is looking like a Ling Queen Nidus all-in. Ooh, and the Oracle is busy in the natural base. Hasn't scouted the main. A lot of hits are coming in. And the Queens should be able to zone this Oracle away. The Oracle has not scouted the main base. Nightmare, he hasn't seen the lair. Uh-oh. He has not seen the lair. More Lings are in production. YoungYakov is going all in. And Nightmare has no idea. He's transitioning into a Twilight Council, into a Forge, into +1, into would-be Blink. Standard opener, standard follow-up here from Nightmare. A Roach Warren is thrown down, but I wonder if that's just for show. There it is. There's the Nidus. So the Roach Warren is just for show. We have 4 Adepts coming out. They're going to be threatening the mineral line. They're going to be wreaking some havoc. They're going to be disrupting the economy here of YoungYakov. Lings are in position. The Nidus is still on the way, and Nightmare still does not know what's going on until now. Okay, he does see. He sees the lair. He should be aware that something is wrong. Something is amiss. The stasis trap does not finish. And where are we going to place the Nidus Worm? It looks like Nightmare, he's aware of what's going on. He does have something patrolling in the main base for vision. So he will be... there we do have a pylon. But the pylon does not see the Nidus. It's not done. Up! The Oracle does get eyes on it and will focus it down. This Nidus, I don't... it is going to finish up. Can we transfuse in time? Meanwhile, we have a shield battery. We have an overcharge as well. These things, they're not going to break into the third base. Nightmare so far responding beautifully. He's got plenty of stack defense. Oh, the Queens come out. They go down. A disastrous start to the all-in for YoungYakov. 2 Queens, high-energy Queens go down for free. Oh, another Queen is going to go down. A little bit too wasteful. I appreciate that YoungYakov, he was able to keep this hidden for so long. But when it comes to the execution here, again, maybe a little bit too cavalier. A little bit too trigger-happy when it comes to bringing out those Queens. With 3 high-energy Queens going down, that may just be the end of the rush. As I say that, we have a couple more Queens coming out in the natural base. Lings are flooding on in. Can YoungYakov still pull this off? It has been heavily delayed. Instead of 5 Queens, he only has 3. Sorry, instead of 6 Queens, he only has 3. Lings are getting a surround, though. They're getting into all the Stalkers. Oh, but a good blink from Nightmare. He does reduce surface area. Using the choke point here to his advantage. He's only going to be losing a couple of Stalkers at a time, but the mineral line is going down. 20 probes fall. Nightmare, he's taking a lot of damage. He's going to be losing control of the natural base as well. The Queens are trying to buy time, holding the line against these Stalkers. And it looks like, yeah, the Nexus is going to be targeted down. Queens are barely going to be able to escape. No, not quite. As the Nexus does fall, a couple of creep tumors were thrown down as well. The Lings, they focus down the pylon. They're going to be depowering these gateways. And this is already worth it here for YoungYakov. He's already done so much damage. He hasn't ended the game, but he's on the way. There is still, of course, the third base to consider. Nightmare, he's on a 2-base economy compared to YoungYakov, who is on 41 workers. And YoungYakov, he's transitioning. Now, he's done enough damage to make it worth it. He has put Nightmare on the back foot. There are a lot of Stalkers, and there is Blink alongside +1. So these Stalkers are pretty terrifying. They are pretty threatening. But we can see here that YoungYakov, he can rest easy knowing that the production is depowered and there's no natural base. He even may see a move out as well, as he sees all these Stalkers. You can see Nightmare just waiting there for those revelations from those oracles. Meanwhile, back at home, YoungYakov, he's got a Roach Warren on the way. He's droning, saturating his bases. Ling's going to be threatening this third base as well, picking up whatever they can. It looks like they want to probe. They won't quite get it, but we do disrupt the mining. We do distract Nightmare. And YoungYakov, he is in the driver's seat. I was concerned that he had maybe, been delayed too much and had lost too much in the process of trying to get those Nidus Worms up and running. But I would say he has yeah, gotten quite a strong lead. The Stalkers are moving out to threaten, and Nightmare, he has to do this. He has to be active. Even with creep still in the natural base, he needs to move out across the map. He needs to force an army out of YoungYakov. And so far, good blinks, good kiting from Nightmare. He will be losing, 2 Stalkers, though. Nidus will complete across. Oh god, no, the Queens are stuck. They were stuck for a moment. That's a lot of Queens, though. Transfuses a clutch. The Queens do survive. Most of them do. 2 get picked off. Again, not too bad here from our Protoss player. Trading as best he can, as efficiently as he can. Again, the pressure is on Nightmare to out-trade his opponent. And so far, he's doing a good job. Meanwhile, across the map, there was a Nidus, but it does get cleaned up. Nightmare is still on 2 bases. And YoungYakov is able to maintain his worker lead. We have +2 melee on the way. Roach speed just finished up. And now he's working towards his 4th base. Again, we're really looking at Nightmare. How does he come back in this game? Now, there are comeback options. You know, DTs, Dark Templar, of course. Disruptors, Purification Novas. We could even try to rush into a Fleet Beacon and rush into Carriers. There are options available for Nightmare. For now, he's still just relying on his Blink Stalkers, relying on out-controlling his opponents. And again, he's been trading well. He hasn't lost anything yet. A couple of these Stalkers are very low, but they haven't gone down. So really efficient trades here from Nightmare, forcing YoungYakov to bleed out Lings over and over again. There's that Robotics Bay on the way. I imagined for Colossi, but he could get into Disruptors. Another Queen goes down. You can see here, whenever the Stalkers move in, they pick off a Queen, an Overlord, a Roach. Speaking of, another Overlord goes down. Another Queen goes down as well. YoungYakov, he's just bleeding out units, but the Lings, they come in from behind. We're trying to set up a surround, and there's creep everywhere. The Lings will lock down these Stalkers. And Stalkers are finally going down. The losses that Nightmare cannot afford. We have a Nidus in the main base at the same time. And YoungYakov, he's hit puberty. As he's pushing on through, Bile's going to be forcing the Stalkers back. Now, there are shield batteries. There is an overcharge available as well. So Nightmare, he may try to hold on here. Roaches are going down. Expensive losses for YoungYakov, but he can afford it. He has a 4th base. Biles will connect. There's that overcharge. But the Biles, they also focus that down. Shield battery, it's putting in a lot of work, but 20 probes fall. And it looks like YoungYakov, he has done it. He didn't just take game 1. He's going to be taking game 2 as well. Off of, once again, an unscouted all-in. It took a long time for Nightmare to recognize what was going on, to prepare himself. And he was doing well initially. He killed the first 2 Nidus Worms, but he didn't kill the 3rd. YoungYakov, he did not give up. Unrelenting. He committed to that 3rd Nidus Worm, and it worked. I thought that it was too late. I thought that it was too much. But no, YoungYakov, give this man a Nidus, 3 Queens, and a dream. And he'll make that dream a reality. We can see that, again, Nightmare, his economy is crippled. He's down to 33 workers. He's trying to pump out as many Disruptors as he can. And Disruptors, they can make up for a supply deficit. But we can see that Nightmare, he's down, what, 70 supply. Half the supply here of his opponents. Like, Disruptors, they can't make up for that. Or can they? Typically, it's like 30 supply, 30 or 40 supply they can make up for. But 70 coming in on 80, not so much, as the Roaches are pushing on forward. First Disruptor has arrived. Nova is going to be held here. We're waiting for the opportune moments. We're trying to make it as juicy as possible. There we go. The overcharge putting in a lot of work once again. We're still holding on to that Nova. We don't want to waste it. And here we go. The Disruptor, it does come on forward. The Nova goes off, and it won't connect with anything. A second Disruptor is coming out. Alas, the damage has already been done. Biles, they take down the Oracle. Oof. And YoungYakov having a strong start here for his team. Really making a statement against some of these other big names. YoungYakov. GG gets called. Nightmare taps out, and YoungYakov, he takes the series 2-0. Oh my god. GG, well played. YoungYakov popping off, mate. Popping off, taking down Nightmare. Arguably the ace player of Matcherino Esports. He brings him down 2-0. And this does not bode well for Matcherino, because Twisted Minds, they still have their ace player. They still have Classic down the line, and to bring down Classic 2-0 in such a fashion is going to be such a difficult thing to do. So a very big win for YoungYakov, a very big win for Twisted Minds, and I'm sure a lot of pressure is now off the shoulders of Nicoract. Here we go. Up next, we do have a TVT between Nicoract and Future. Again, a shout out to YoungYakov. Very aggressive play. I should also bear that in mind. We should talk about how YoungYakov, we didn't really get to see too much of his macro, more so just very decisive play. Game 1, a Ling Bane bust. Game 2, Ling Queen Nidus all in. And yeah, just really assertive, really decisive, really confident play out of YoungYakov. We saw the same thing in day 1. And we'll see how Nicoract can do. Nicoract, he struggled the previous time we saw him in Code A. Winding it back, we casted Nicoract versus Ragnarok. And Ragnarok is one of the best Zerg players in the world, so it does make sense for Nicoract to struggle there. But here, we can see Nicoract thrive. He's up against not just Future, but he's up against a Terran. And for those of you that have been tuning in to our broadcast, for those of you who have been tuning into OSC King of the Hill, you would know that Nicoract, kind of like how Solar, he's like the Serral killer, Nicoract is the Beyond killer. I would say, I think I'd probably be confident in saying that Nicoract, his best matchup is TVT. TVT is his speciality. And coming into this, he's got a good shot. And here we go. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have, representing Twisted Minds, the blue Terran player. It is Nicoract. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent representing Matcherino Esports. It is the American Terran player. It is Future. Catching up with the chat. Middle-aged Yakov, juvenile Yakov, elder Yakov. Oh my god, that is like Yakov's final form. Elder Yakov. That's an eldritch horror if I've ever heard one. That's I can't wait to see that. Maybe at the end of the season. Elder Yakov does have a ring to it. It sounds epic. It sounds like his final form. We're getting there. An immortal, a prism, and a dream greater than a disruptor. True. But for now, we are getting into our next best of 2, and again, my eyes are still on Nicoract here. I mean, maybe they shouldn't be, Future, as much as I want to praise Nicoract, and there's a lot of hype behind Twisted Minds at the moment, and I'm definitely hyped for them. Talking about Matcherino Esports, they do have some quality players, and Future has been looking very impressive. We have had the luxury of casting a lot of Future recently in the Champions Cup qualifiers, in the GSO, not quite the GSO qualifiers, but in other online events as well. And Future, he has been taking down some big names. He's been taking down some big Zerg players like Ragnarok, like DRG. He's been taking down Astrea as well. They've been facing off in these online qualifiers, and Future at times can take it to Astrea as well. So yeah, Future has been honestly looking really impressive. Is it going to be enough here, though, to overcome Nicoract in a mirror match? For the time being, we do have double gas openers all around. Future is across the map. He will delay the CC of his opponent. There was no other Reaper on the way. This was a really bold move from Future, and it paid off. The reason why I say that is that Nicoract, he didn't go Reaper into Reaper. He went Reaper into Reactor. Because he was making Reactor, he didn't have a second unit to, hold on to his base and hold on to his CC. And Future gambled. He gambled well. Was able to delay that expansion from his opponent. Back at home, we're getting into our 1-1-1. Again, as we get into this TVT, it was double gas openers, so not very economic from our players. A lot more safe and standard play. As I mentioned before, Nicoract, he is pumping out 2 Reapers at a time with that reactor. Meanwhile, Future, less so. He's focusing a little more on his tech, on the rest of his production. We do see him taking a stance here in the center of the map. Oh god, the armies are going to be clashing. And they will have to respect each other. They don't commit. They don't want to be the first to lose too much. As Future behind this is going for a medevac. So he's going to be going for... Oh, wait, did he cancel that? Never mind. He was going for a medevac, but he does cancel it. He's getting into his tank production. Across the map, Future, he dives into the natural base as well. So far, good volleys with those Hellions. But the repairs are looking good as well, and Future is forced back. And trading blow for blow, 1 for 1. Nicoract did lose 1 extra SCV than his opponents, but that is the only big difference here. And Nicoract, he's going for a much more standard approach. He's going into his Raven, into his tank production. A very standard setup from Nicoract across the map. Future is going to be aggressive. He may have canceled that medevac earlier, but now he does bring it out, and Future is going to be going for a bit of a tank drop across the map. A bold move. Bold move here for Future. With this tank drop, he can look to get in range of some of the production. It looks like he can maybe pick off a depot, but we'll see if he can get more than that. Well, as Marines do dive into the main base. Nicoract, though, he's out on the map. He can come in from behind. Oh, a big lock on the tank. It looks like Future is going to have to pick up and get the hell out of here. No, he juggles. Oh my god, he's crazy. Future is going to lose everything in the process. The medevac goes down. The tank as well. A big loss for Future. He lost his medevac, his tank, all of his Marines. And what did he really get for his troubles? He got a Cyclone and a handful of units that really kind of already paid for themselves, or they've kind of been outscaled as the game goes on. So solid defense here from Nicoract. Again, he was a little bit fortunate, as he was already in the midst of moving out across the map. Ooh, Mule does get targeted down. Nice pick off from Future. He's going to get an SCV as well. Oh my god. He is microing his heart out with this one Reaper. Finally, he does go down. But overall, I do have to give the edge to Nicoract. When it comes to the high-tech value units like these tanks, like these Ravens, like he does have a slight lead. Now he's going to be moving out. Behind this Nicoract, he's getting his 3rd CC. Likewise, so is Future. They're both looking to expand, take their additional bases. Which means we don't have any 2-base all-ins. No one is going for like a 2-port mass Viking all-in, which we saw quite a lot of last night. Did see quite a lot of that, especially with Juanito with special. For now, Nicoract, he wants to take advantage of the lead that he has. He's moving out across the map. He wants to try to get within range of the army of Future. But again, Future, he's in position. He does see this coming ahead of time. Yeah, he's going to be able to siege up here, and the armies will look upon each other as we just work on our upgrades. Additional Vikings, additional Raxes. Both players are going for the Viking mantra here of TVT. Nicoract being a little bit cheeky. Oh, getting a couple of pot shots in. What I mean by that is that when you do have a TVT like this, you can go for different kind of army compositions, and one of them is to go for a more medevac heavy style, which Beyond loves to do. Well, we do trade a Viking for a Viking. That Cyclone coming in clutch for Future. But again, we can see that they're not really going for these like big marine heavy or drop heavy styles. It's biotank, yes, but again, we're focusing on Vikings for now. It's all about that air control. The air control, the Ravens, the tanks. The Marines are really only there to buffer and be more of a supportive unit. Here we go, Nicoract is moving out. Oof, he's going to take some big shots to the face, but big disables go off. Is it going to be enough, as we do have reinforcements trickling on in? Future does have the defender's advantage, and with these Marines, he's slowly breaking on through. And Nicoract, he's going to lose everything. We had some nice disables out of Nicoract, but we had better auto turrets, as well as those Marines trickling in. Nicoract, he loses his tank lead. He's forced back home, and Nicoract, he is hurting. There's a lot of catching up to do. Oof. There's that disable. Vikings will land, and you can see Future look to overwhelm this position. Nicoract, he cannot hold on. Yeah, there's just too much rallying across the map. The tank goes down as well. And Future, he goes straight for the kill. He can go for the third, he can go for the natural. The boys, they have to be pulled. GG gets called, and Future will take game number 1. GG. Again, a very important game here for Future. For his team. For Nightmare to fall to YoungYakov. That was a big upset. And Matcherino Esports, they need Future to bring it back here and now. They need him to not just pull his weight, but also do even more than that to give Astrea the best chance he can have at taking down Classic and taking the series. Oof. So, GG. Initially, Nicoract had a strong start, and after he killed the tank, you could see that he wanted to make use of his lead. He's like, okay, look, I'm up in tanks. I was able to trade better. I need to assert myself across the map. But alas, he just, maybe overextended or maybe misjudged the situation, committing to a big fight that maybe he shouldn't have, and he just wasn't able to break Future the way that he wanted to. Lost too much in the process, and Future snowballed out of control. And with that, Future has a lead in this series, but Nicoract has a good chance here at redemption. It's going to be Nicoract's map of choice. And what map is that going to be? Again, could be any map out there. I imagine Nicoract, he wants to be more aggressive. Like that's the kind of feeling that I get whenever we cast Nicoract, kind of like YoungYakov, in a similar vein. Like he wants to be active, he wants to be in your face, he wants to be, just in the driver's seat. And we'll see if he goes for a smaller map, like a Babylon or even a Near Humanity in a way. It's a little bit different in TVT. I would say that Near Humanity is more of a macro map in this matchup. But we'll see. As Nicoract, he's going to be deliberating, ruminating over his choice, over what he wants to, or where he wants the comeback to occur. See Yakov. We'll see. Again, Nicoract, he has a little bit of breathing room, especially because of YoungYakov's performance earlier. And of course, Classic is coming out later on down the line. But here we go. We're going for a larger map instead. Interesting. Okay. Nicoract going for Ancient Cistern. And this map, because it's a little bit larger, we can, kind of talk about some similar things that we did when going over Nightmare, right? How this is larger, more bases. You have a lot more breathing room. At the same time, we could see a proxy. We could see some aggression because of how large this map is. There are some pretty nice proxy locations that you can make use of in a TVT. We'll see if either one is crazy enough to go for something like that. Oh boy. We will find out. Shout out to Red Gunner guy in the chat. It's been a while, Poppy. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. From the land of Singapore. Welcome. Of course, predictions were open earlier, so make sure you get on top of that. You don't have too much time to place your bets whenever a best of 2 starts. Shout out to Kuro. Kuro has been on top of that as well. So try to squeeze your predictions in while you can. And yeah, from here, it looks like the players are just kind of getting their lobbies ready, getting everything prepared here for our next matchup. From my understanding, I believe Future, he was living in Korea for a long time, for the majority of this year even, but I think he's back in the States. I think he's currently back in the United States. So because that, they may have to be switching servers back and forth. That's something else to consider when it comes to preparing these lobbies and preparing these matches. Oh boy. But yeah, hold on. What are the predictions looking like? I haven't been able to place any bets, Papi. I mean, to be fair, I probably would have gone for Nightmare in that previous series. But this is also a reminder that if you do want to take part in the prediction game in the main season, then join our Discord. Join our Discord server. The prediction game is basically where we kind of tally and keep track of everyone's predictions for the weekly matches of WTL. And we have a lot of fun with it. We do have a lot of fun with it. We do keep track of everything, and we show them off during the stream as well, alongside the regular predictions, of course. But yeah, that is something that we try to do, and we will try to do that in the next season as well. It is a lot of extra work that we have to kind of get around to doing, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice little callback to something that we used to do back in the day. I say something that Kura used to do back in the day is the prediction game for the prediction game for Pro League. For Pro League many years ago at this point. It's been a long time. WTL, it's not quite the same as Pro League, but there are definitely some Pro League vibes that do occur here. I think it does help that we get player cams and that we get to like see their reactions and all that stuff. Unfortunately, we don't get to see them interact with each other. That was like the big thing about Pro League is, you got to see the players, like congratulate each other like after matches, or you got to see them interact when they're like on the sidelines, like on the bench, like as they're watching their teammates as well, the coach coming in. Yeah, that's some of my best memories, or some of the best StarCraft that I would watch would be stuff like Pro League. Good stuff. One day, it would be beautiful to have like an offline Pro League again. I think the most recent example of that is probably GSL versus the World. That's the closest that we've had, and it's been a long time since we've had GSL versus the World. That was what, 2018, 2019. That was a long time ago. It's hard to believe, but yeah, I think GSL versus the World is the last example of that. We've had like other team league formats since then, like the Caster Clash. No, what was it called? There was a WTL. There was the War Chest Team League, and then after that, that's it. The Caster Civil War. That's it. The Caster Civil War. So I guess we kind of had those for a while, but again, not quite the same. I'd say that WTL is definitely a step in the right direction. All right, Nation Wars. How could I forget Nation Wars as well? Feels bad, man. Feels bad. It's been a long time since we've had a Nation Wars. When was the last one? Like, also maybe 2020. It's one of those things that we take for granted. Nation Wars was... No, sorry, I said 2020. 2022 was Nation Wars. That recent. It just kind of glossed over my mind. 2022. Wow. Last year. Not too long ago. Not too long. Yeah, maybe we can have another iteration of that one day. Maybe. It would be cool to see another group put that together. I know Wardy has spoken a lot about how when it came to the Caster Civil War, like there was a lot of like admin stuff that went into that, and it was a really big endeavor for him. Maybe one day. Meanwhile, I guess we should go on a short break. I'm pretty sure that it won't be a long break because we've already waited quite some time. But yeah, we're going to be going on a very short break. When we return, we'll have Game 2. See you soon. And welcome back, everyone. We apologize for the extended break, but we have returned, and in the bottom left-hand corner for Twisted Minds, it is Nicoract. And in the top right, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean... Oh, South Korean? What? The American Terran player. It is Future from Matcherino Esports. Here we go. So again, we apologize for the extended break. We're not too sure what occurred and what did cause the break, but what's important is that we're back. We are back, ready and raring to get into game number 2 to kind of bring it all back. Game 1 was on Royal Blood, and we saw Nicoract overextend to gearing towards the mid game, gearing towards 3-base saturation, did lose a big fight. And due to the small nature of Royal Blood, it didn't take too long for Future to counterattack to punish Nicoract and to end the game then and there. So it was a bit of an abrupt, or I say abrupt, things escalated very quickly out of control in favor of Future. But now we're getting into game number 2. We have double gas openers all around Future. He is looking for proxies, and this makes plenty of sense. Coming into this, we were talking about how a map like Ancient Cistern, it's big, it's large, it's quote-unquote macro, yes, but it's also has a lot of locations for proxies, and Future is aware of that. He is a little bit paranoid. He wants to play safe, so he is scouting and checking all of those common proxy locations to make sure he doesn't get bamboozled, to make sure he does not get done dirty by Nicoract. Not the same way the Nightmare was. So Future is just, making sure he's safe and sound, getting into his own opener. You could, in a way, argue that maybe Nicoract has a slight economic lead, but he for an SCV scout as well. So both players are going to be scouting in their own ways, and as a result, things are going to be pretty even between these two players. Reapers are moving out. Bold move here from both players. They ignore each other, and they do zoom across the map with their initial Reapers, and that means that CCs are going to be delayed. We have this SCV on the low ground going down for Future. Likewise, we have an SCV going down in the main of Nicoract as well. So both players trading blow for blow. It looks like Nicoract, did he shoot first? He did! Ooh, big loss for Future as he loses his first Reaper. A big overstep here, and that means in a mirror matchup, he has a unit deficit, and that is a pretty scary thing. It means that Nicoract can be a little bit more assertive. He's moving out with his first 2 Reapers. He's looking to bypass the units here. Future is waiting on top of the ramp, but the Reapers, they avoid the ramp entirely. They go straight into the main base. They can go for some more economic damage as well. Oh, they don't quite commit, though. They will be forced back. But at least they got a scout of the main base. They got eyes on the CC being built. Oh, and it looks like Nicoract is being hunted down. As I say, that reinforcements coming in. They do come in. The Hellions are going to be trading, and it looks like Nicoract is going to come out on top. He cleans up every unit of his opponent. Ooh. As we can see here, a better trade overall for Nicoract. As Future does lose 1 additional Hellion compared to his opponents. Now, to be fair, these early trades aren't the biggest of deals. We can see these 2 Hellions going 1 for 1 as well. Did they kill each other? Ooh, Future. No, he comes out on top. He avenges his fallen Hellion comrade as well. Very nicely done. But as we get into this, again, Nicoract, these aren't like the most impactful trades. And SCV is going to be going down as well, which is nice. But when it comes to the early Reapers and Hellions, they do get outscaled as the game goes on. Suddenly everything's about tanks and Ravens, Vikings, Marines, less so about the Reapers and Hellions. So they kind of trade blow for blow. Yes, we can see that Future does have a slight lead here as he is being quite aggressive. Once again, we saw him go for a tank drop in game number 1. That's what he initially started with. And we see similarly he's going for, I believe, a drop here in game number 2. Tank 2 Marines. A very expensive drop. We saw that it didn't quite work out in game 1, but here in game 2, he gets on top of the add-on. Does force a cancel on that tech lab, on that reactor. Oof. And this time, Future will escape with his tank. Again, winding it back in game 1, Future, he lost his tank and his medevac. He had a disastrous start. But here, he's a little bit more reserved. He does preserve his units, keeps everything alive, and gets the hell out of there. Meanwhile, Nicoract, he's looking for his own damage. He comes in with an auto turret. He's able to bypass the Cyclone as well. Able to keep that Raven alive. He gets 3 SCVs, lost mining time. And he's able to escape to gather energy to go for another dive another day. So both players going blow for blow. We do see another drop into the main base, trying to be cheeky, but alas, this was a bit adventurous from Future. He dropped a Hellion on top of the tank. It was a Hellion. The hell, it wasn't really going to do too much. So, yeah, Nicoract, he cleans it up. Losing the Hellion isn't a big deal, but losing the Medevac, that's quite expensive. As Future is going for a 2-base all-in. I say a 2-base all-in. He threw down a third CC earlier. Did he cancel? I guess he did. Okay, so a 2-base all-in from Future. That is a second starport. He's going to be going for massive Viking production, looking to gain control of the skies, looking to get into the Liberators afterwards, and straight up end the game from there. Meanwhile, Nicoract is going to be doubling down himself on his own bioproduction, moving out across the map, being quite assertive. And can he get on top of Future before he can really move out with his tanks, with his Vikings? He does scan ahead of time. Nicoract going for his own drop. I could have sworn I saw a CC on the production tab earlier. But here we go. He does siege in the main base. He will camp the production. He does get a tank. Oh, but the interference matrices here, the disables on the tanks are a little bit too good, and Nicoract, he will lose both of them. Not the best trade for Nicoract. He trades 2 tanks for 1 of his opponents. 2 for 1. Cyclones do kill each other, but Future's moving out. Again, Future is making 3 Vikings at a time. Nicoract is expanding behind this. I don't really know if Nicoract is fully aware of the danger that he's in. As Future does throw down his own third CC as well. Okay. So he is transitioning. Armies are going to clash. Big anti-armor missile is going to slow Future down. Is going to keep him at bay. And it looks like, especially because of that drop, Future has been delayed. Like, he knows that he has been delayed, so is going to be going for a bit of a longer game. Now he starts Stim. Additional Raxes. He will eventually get across the map, but no, he cannot. Nicoract, he is keeping up. Great movement here from the Blue Terran. Despite being down in tanks, he's done a great job at slowing down Future and, yeah, giving himself the time he needs to build up and rebuild his tank count. And with that, Nicoract, he gets away with his third base. At the same time, we do have a drop across the map as well. Oh, no. Did he just cancel the third CC of Future? I think he did. It's not on cams, but across the map, Nicoract, I believe he did force the cancel or even got a kill. And Future, he's stuck on 2 bases. He does manage to get a tank. Nicoract getting ready for a surround. He's coming in from behind. And here we go. We have 1 disable. Is that going to be enough? Vikings are forced to land. Tank volleys are going to be going off. It looks like Nicoract, he has too much. He takes down the Vikings, and he takes down the tanks as well. And again, Future, he was forced to cancel his CC earlier. He's still on 2 bases, still does not have a third in sight. He throws down a backup third CC now, but it is so delayed. Future, he has to relinquish map control to his opponent, to Nicoract. And, yeah, from here, Nicoract, he can skyrocket ahead. He can make 3 SCVs at a time. He scans ahead of time, sees the lack of third base. He's going to be feeling pretty good about that. As Nicoract can even throw down his 4th if he so chose to. As Nicoract is moving out. Meanwhile, we can see Future taking a very defensive position. He has 6 turrets on the way, and the sensor tower as well. Oh, at the same time, as 6 workers go down in the main base of Nicoract. Future doing a great job at clawing his way back into this. Meanwhile, those 6 turrets, they are done, and they do deflect. Oh my god, they even take down a full medevac as well. Massive pickoff for Future. Really good foresight to actually have those turrets in position, and even though Future is behind, and he has been behind, he is getting back into this. You know, he took down a full medevac. He is denying mining. I believe that's now 8 SEV kills with this one lib. Finally, it goes down, but yeah, Future is closed the gap. Getting a bunch of Marines for free. You can see Nicoract just bleeding out far too many units, despite having such a big lead. You can see that as well, it looks like Nicoract has been missing some SCV cycles, some macro cycles. So his worker count isn't as high as it otherwise should have been. And things have evened up. Things more or less have evened up. Scan does confirm the saturation. And now we go back to positional battles. We're going to be reverting back here to a slow and steady style from both players. Who can outposition who? Who catches who? As Future is moving out. What's important is that because Future has been making 3 Vikings at a time, he does have Liberators incorporated as well. I do have to give the edge to Future when it comes to the quality of his army. Just because of those Liberators and the Vikings. We can see Nicoract just now still, focusing on medevac production, not on Vikings. Can go for a multitude of drop play. The Future going to be rotating around. Oh, does take a tank volley to the face. Yeah, 1 tank does get picked off. 2 tanks even. Oh, can we get a 3rd? Not quite. 2 tanks do go down. Future looking for another way in, but he does take a couple of tank shots to the face. 4th base is being taken on location, but Future, he does manage to get on top of it. Oh, but the base finishes up just in time. It will be lifted. It will be saved. Meanwhile, Nicoract, he's just going for a big counterattack. He knows he can't really keep up with the army, but there are reinforcements back at home. Future, he was waiting. He was ready and waiting. Another tank goes down for free. Future picking Nicoract apart. That is now, what, 3 tanks going down over the course of this engagement. 4th base is denied. Even though Nicoract did have a lead when it comes to his 4th base timing, he just wasn't able to get it up and running. Wasn't able to actually make use of the 4th. Oh, but he's coming in for a surround. He's coming in from behind. He does close the distance. Marines will collapse on the tanks, and Nicoract, he cleans up the army. He swallows up the army of Future. But that was merely 1 army. We do have another. Nicoract does take a big supply lead. But again, it's not about the supply. It's about the positioning here in TVT. If Future is able to keep up, if he's able to somehow catch Nicoract off guard, then Future can still take a fight. But that is still a lot of tanks. A lot of tanks are available. Liberator does go down for free. We get a tank as well. Future. Now it's going to be his turn to bleed out too much. As Future is going to be maneuvering through the center of the map. Meanwhile, Nicoract, he avoids the army. We're going for a base trade. Future does not turn around. The planetary will fall. And Future is going straight for the natural base. Future is going for the kill move. The base trade is upon us. There's nothing at home to defend. Future is busting into the main. At the same time, Nicoract also has to do the same. He has to likewise bust into the main base of a Future, as Future is now camping the production. GG gets called. It looks like Nicoract, he can't make his way into the main, and Future will take the series 2-0. Will come out ahead in the base trade. GG. Future, he was up against the wall. Things were not looking good for Future in that game. He was down in supply. He had a late 4th base. Not quite a late 4th base. He had an on-par 4th, but he was down in the overall army supply. Down in tanks, down in Liberators. But the base trade, that was, of course, a good way to come back in the game to secure a victory. A Hail Mary play, a very risky move from Future, but it paid off. It did pay off in the end. And unfortunately for Nicoract, Future, he was ready for it. He was ready at his natural in his main. And now we are tied up 2-2. We are tied up in this series. 2 points for Twisted Minds, 2 points for Matcherino Esports. And now we get into a PvP. Oh boy. And this is a lot more up in the air. Overall, I would say that Classic is the stronger player when it comes to, when we look at like PvT and PvZ. I do think that Classic has the edge, but the other matchups, they don't matter. They don't matter. We're not talking about how well-rounded of a player you are. We're talking about PvP specifically. And in the PvP, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything will happen. And Astrea, he does have a good chance here at bringing down Classic. Likewise, the reverse is also true. The likelihood of this being a 1-1 is pretty high. I would say it's pretty high for this to go all the way to the ace match. But we'll see. We'll see what our players have in store for us. I think overall, I still want to give a slight edge to Classic, but I think the 1-1 is likely. Regardless, game 1, Altitude. Altitude will be the first game here of choice, first map of choice. And we may even end up in Phoenix v Phoenix. We have been seeing and casting a lot of Phoenix Wars on this channel. If the players open up the exact same, that we can end up with Phoenixes on the field, which I'm sure neither player really wants. So I'm sure we'll get something else. I'm sure. When it comes to all the Phoenix Wars that we've been casting, a lot of them do incorporate, or they do, they are related to Max Packs, and he's not going to be a part of this, so I'm sure we do have a very different kind of PvP ahead of us. I'm sure. You're like, Papi, you're crazy. We are going to see nothing but Phoenixes here. Oh no. Regardless, predictions are open, so place your bets on who you think is going to be, or how you think the series is going to go. A 2-0 in either direction, or a 1-1 down the middle. 'Tis up to you. Up to you to place those predictions as we are getting ready for our next game. Again, Astrea, I believe he is currently in the land of South Korea, so ping should be pretty similar for our two players. Also, we do have Astrea, he is in Korea. Of course, he has to be. He played in the GSL qualifiers. Played in GSL. Will be a part of Code S. That's something else I should bring up as well. How could I forget to bring it up? But Astrea, he did qualify for GSL last night for Code S. Oh boy. And he did so bringing down a lot of really good players. GSL Code S. Let's see if I can quickly find that for you. Season 3. I remember I was very surprised. He took down some big names. Let me just double check here. And fun fact, last night in the Code S qualifiers, Astrea 2-0'd Classic. I'm just spitting facts, okay? Astrea did 2-0 Classic last night. Can he do it again? As sporting in the top right-hand corner of Altitude, we have his opponent. We have the ace player of Twisted Minds. It is Classic. And sporting in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the American Protoss player from Matcherino Esports. It is Astrea. Here we go. Good morning, Nish. Papi, Nish. Nish, Emperor Football in the chat as well. Welcome. Sirius Black. Bienvenidos. As we are getting into our openers. Now, when it comes to Phoenix Wars, there are a couple of things that have to coincide for them to force Phoenix Wars, which, again, we have been casting a lot of recently. And there are a couple of things that lead into that. The first is we need a ramp map. A map that allows for a gate expand. That's the first piece of the puzzle. The second piece is that both players, they delay each other's next eye and they force out tech and they force out stargates. And if both players, if they both force out Stargates from each other, oh god, that's not going to happen. But if they do force out Stargates from each other, then they will get into Phoenix v Phoenix. Meanwhile, Astrea, he goes for a double gas opener straight into a second gateway as well. Astrea, he delays his Nexus, and he's going to be hyper aggressive. A very aggressive maneuver here from Astrea. Meanwhile, he does not delay the expansion of Classic. So Classic is going for a gate expand, a very economic opener from the blue Protoss. Meanwhile, the red Protoss, Astrea, this is looking like a one base all in. Now, what is important is that he is not hiding it. He is not pretending to expand. He's not pretending to play macro. This probe of Classic does see the second gateway. He's fully aware of how aggressive Astrea is being right now. And something like a proxy robo or any kind of proxy gateway is pretty likely. So Classic, he can't piece it together, and there it is, proxy robo from Astrea. Again, one base all in from our American Protoss. Oh boy. And we'll see how this all comes together. We can see that Classic is going to be throwing down a safety shield battery. Again, he's fully aware. I mean, he hasn't seen the robo, but he's aware that his opponent's being very aggressive, and he's trying to prepare as best he can. We should be seeing a defensive robo on the way, but no, Classic, he goes for a Stargate instead. And he probe scouts, and he does come across the robo. Now, with this Stargate, Classic should be working on Void Rays. Void Rays, they're kind of like the Immortal in the Sky. In this matchup, they do quite well against Stalkers. They can do well against the Warp Prism, against Immortals. Void Rays, they do pack quite a punch here in this matchup. Especially early on, I should emphasize early on. Meanwhile, we do have a Warp Prism on the way. Astrea going for a Twilight Council. It's kind of late to get into Blink. Could this be DTs? I'm curious. I know that Astrea, he's willing to think outside the box. There's that safety Void Ray on the way. Again, its goal is to zone away the Prism, to focus it down if it ever does expose itself. Speaking of, the Prism is making its way into the main base. Astrea throwing down a third gateway behind this. Are we going for Blink or are we going for DTs? Adepts do make their way into the main. They're going to get a couple of probes. 2 probes will go down. Blink is on the way, so we will not get into Dark Templar. It's going to be, so far, a 3-gate Blink all in. Off of 1 base for Astrea. But it's going to be late. I mean, by the time Blink finishes, Classic, he's going to have, what, 3-4 Void Rays. He's going to have his own gateways. He's going to have a far superior economy. There we go, 3rd gateway now on the way for Classic as well. Or is that the 2nd gateway? I think that's the 2nd gateway for Classic. He still has some catching up to do when it comes to the production, but we'll see if Astrea can pull them apart as Adepts make their way into the natural. They're going to be denying some mining time. Prism's going to get forced back. The Void Ray does hunt it down. A big pickoff. Prism does fall. We can see Classic going for his own defensive robo, which will be for Immortal production. Again, this first Void Ray has already paid for itself. And there's no turning back for Astrea. The game will end one way or another. Either the... Oh god, I didn't even realize, but the pylon went down as well. That robo is not powered. Ugh. One way or another, the game will end. Either Astrea kills Classic or he dies trying. We'll see if we can pull this off. There are 2 pylons powering everything, or powering most things. Shield battery will be targeted. The wall goes down. Adepts, they do manage to shade past the wall. They slip into the main base. Probes are going down. Astrea doing a great job at disrupting the economy, making sure the Classic doesn't get out of control. At the same time, we blink on forward. The Void Rays, they are distracted. And we have enough to one-shot the Stalkers. They're going down one after the other. The overcharge is too late. There's nothing left to overcharge. The Void Rays, they do hold on, though. The power of the Void Ray. Does snipe the Observer. That was the high ground vision that Astrea had. Ugh, those blinks, barely not able to get the shield battery. Has to wait for another warp in, a slow warp in of Stalkers. First Immortal's on the way. With the arrival of the Immortal, that may be the end of the game. It looks like we do have enough to two-shot the Void Rays. 2 Void Rays go down. Ugh, but we are bleeding out a lot of Stalkers. Second shield battery goes down. A Void Ray taking a lot of hits. Classic, he's running out of units. He has 3 left. He has 1 Void Ray and 1 Stalker remaining. The Immortal comes out. The boys are being pulled. That Immortal has a lot of work to do. But the Immortal on its own, it may just be too much. Astrea, it looks like he's done it. He has. It was a delayed all-in. Things are not looking good. But he gets on top of the Immortal, and he will take everything down. GG gets called, and Astrea will take game number 1. Oh, GG. Oh my god. It was again a delayed all-in, and you could argue that maybe Classic was a little bit lax after killing that first War Prism. That was a big win for Classic, and maybe he was resting on his laurels a little bit. I do think that his third, he didn't even have a third gateway. Remember, he only had 2 gates. His gateway production was lacking, definitely. You could also argue that his Robo was late. His Robo was very delayed to get into Immortal production as well. And Astrea was able to abuse that window, abuse the timing when the Immortals just were not out. Not just that, but to be honest, credit where credit is due. Astrea, he created the first opening. Remember, he took down the shield battery and 2 Adepts shaded in. 2 Adepts made their way into the main, and that forced Classic to split up his army. That forced him to split his Void Rays into the main base, as well as a couple of Stalkers as well. And that created the opportunity for Astrea to bust into the natural, to focus down Stalker after Stalker and start snowballing out of control. And here we go. We're getting into game number 2 in the top left-hand corner. For Twisted Minds, the ace player, it is Classic. And spotting in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the American Protoss representing Matcherino Esports, leading the series 1-0. It is Astrea. Here we go. They don't seem very comfy. Oh, you haven't met the right Laurel, Einstein. Oh, not like this. It's what I call Asher. Aye. Oh god. That's it, getting into our next game. And oh my god, Astrea. He's crazy. He's asking for it. This is a Nexus first. Straight up Nexus first from Astrea. Very bold move here from the American Protoss player. He is asking to be all in. And Classic, is he going to answer the call? Is he going to reciprocate and give Astrea what he wants? Yeah, there we go. Zealot's on the way. We have a Cybercore as well. Zealot is routed across the map. Pylon is thrown down. So again, going for a Nexus first is almost unheard of in PvP. It is a very greedy thing to do. It is not safe at all. And again, like, the only thing that you can respond to a Nexus first with is an all-in, and that's exactly what Classic's doing. He's like, mate, are you really going to try to do this to me? Do you really feel that confident against Classic? Astrea. Maximus. What's going on? He's lost his mind. But we'll see. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe he's onto something. Maybe he can pull this off, as Classic is going for a Robo. So the roles have been reversed in a way. I say in a way because, again, because of this opener from Astrea, his Cybercore is delayed. Late Cybercore, late Gateway, late Zealot as well. Astrea, he doesn't have a lot to work with right now, and we'll see if he can survive. I'd be very impressed if he can. Astrea, he's got a Forge on the way. He's going to rely on cannons. I mean, he has to. It makes sense. Forge is in production. We do have the Robo I have to finish up for Classic. Like, what Astrea just did is, he went Nexus first. He's like, what are you going to do? All in me? And Classic's like, yeah. Yeah, like, of course. What do you mean? There's no question. And there we go. We have cannons on the way. The first zealots are going to be dancing with each other. And oh god! Classic is going to be able to have a better trade there. Astrea getting caught on himself on his own units. But these cannons are a really interesting addition. So, talking about this opener from Astrea, because it's so quirky and so unheard of, I've never seen this before. I've never seen someone go Nexus first. So I'm excited. Like I'm learning something here. It's as to how Astrea wants to approach this. Now, because he's late when it comes to his own production, it does make a lot of sense to go for a forge. He's throwing down cannons everywhere. He's got cannons in his natural. He's got cannons in the main base. He is fortifying himself very well. Now, we'll see if the fortifications can hold. That's what I'm curious about. Because we have Immortals. We have a second Immortal on the way. And Immortals, they love focusing down buildings. So I'm curious if Astrea can defend against this. Here we go. The first Immortal has arrived. Overcharge is popped in the main. And Astrea, he does hold on for now. But he was forced to overcharge. And Classic didn't lose anything. Classic, he did not lose a single unit. He's getting ready for the second wave, and this time there won't be an overcharge that Astrea can rely on. He needs to focus down that Prism. Oof, the Immortal taking a lot of hits. Prism as well, taking some hull damage. Again, that War Prism is the only thing giving Classic high ground vision. More cannons are on the way. That is 5 cannons here at the natural. The Immortals have arrived. Boys are being pulled. The first cannon goes down. Again, good target firing from Astrea. He wants that Prism. He will not get it, though. Juggling looking good from our Korean Protoss player. He keeps his Immortals alive. He keeps his Stalkers alive for the most part as well. But 3 cannons survive, and we have more on the way. Astrea behind this is going for a Stargate. He's going for a Void Ray, which, again, does make sense. Immortals, they don't shoot up. Adepts do shade in, though. Oh, they're going to do a lot of damage in the main base. Probes are falling. That Prism taking a lot of hits. We can see the Immortals are powering through the shield battery. Void Ray is about to come out, but 11 probes fall. Astrea, though, he still has a worker lead. That's how ahead he is in the worker count. He may have lost 11 workers. He's got 30 compared to the 22 of Classic. The Void Ray has arrived, hunting down that Prism. It looks like the Prism is going to go down. Classic not quite in position to protect it. A big blow to Classic. Void Ray doesn't take any hull damage. And Classic is still all in. Has to rebuild the Warp Prism. Oh my god, he's up to 4 Immortals. Jesus. Oh god, no! But 1 goes down. Again, because he doesn't have the Warp Prism. He doesn't have the Warp Prism. He loses an Immortal. That's a big loss for Classic. And I think at this point, Astrea may have done it. Again, Astrea, he barely has any units. But he has a wall of cannons. 6, soon to be 7 cannons at the natural. He has 2 shield batteries, soon to be 3 shield batteries and an overcharge, 2 pylons to make sure he keeps everything alive. Void Ray goes for a big counterattack, and as boys are being pulled, I don't think Classic can break this. Here we go. The boys have arrived. They're getting on top of the Immortals as well. The juggling not good enough. Only 2 Immortals survive. And Astrea holds once again. He's focusing on the pylons across the map. Classic up against a new build, a new opener. He's struggling here to make this work. The longer this goes on, the better it is for Astrea. As more gateways are being depowered, the Prism doesn't make its way into the main base. And Astrea, it looks like he has done it. I don't see a way. This Prism it's battered, it's bruised. Astrea, he's far ahead in the economy. Depowering the gateways across the map, and I mean, there's no blink. There's only 2 Immortals. Astrea, he has weathered the storm, and again, like, I have not seen an opener quite like this before. And we've casted our fair share of Astrea, of Max Angel, but going for a Nexus first into cannons, I love it. Something new was brought to the table here. Something that I'm sure Classic has never experienced before. I mean, the classic reaction to this is to go for a proxy robo, is to go for a 1-base all-in. You could argue that a lot of this did hinge on the fact that Astrea did kill the first War Prism. I think that's accurate. I think if that first War Prism hadn't gone down, if you remember, Classic, he had built up towards 4 Immortals. I think he probably would have been able to break the natural, or he would have had a much higher chance of breaking the natural base if he kept all 4 Immortals alive, and he had the War Prism to juggle as well. But alas, that was not meant to be, and as a result, I mean, the supplies are still very close. I should reiterate as well that that's 2 War Prisms. Is that intentional? I don't know. The supplies are still very close here, but the Oracle gets across the map. The economy of Classic is now crippled. 3 War Prisms? This could have been 2 more Immortals. Okay. Huh. We're just gonna elevator everything into the main. And you know what? There's nothing here. Oh my god. Classic. Is he a genius? There's no cannons. There's no cannons. There's no shield battery. The main base is exposed. The Immortals are going ham, though, focusing down War Prism after War Prism. All 3 Prisms go down. But the Void Rays are also being focused down by those Stalkers. One of them still survives, and it looks like... Oh my god. Classic, he's barely not breaking through. GG gets called, and Astrea will take the 2-0, taking down Classic and winning the series for Matcherino Esports. GG. Oh my god. Okay, I love the Doom Drop. I love the idea of the Doom Drop into the main base. As we saw, it's just a way to bypass the wall of cannons. There were, what, 8 cannons in the natural? Bypass the cannons, bypass the shield batteries, force Astrea to fight with only his army. But it wasn't just the army, it was the probes as well. And those workers did an amazing job at tanking shots, and also they did some decent damage to the army as well, to the Stalkers and the Immortals. Classic did not have the best army to go toe-to-toe with even an army of probes at that point. So yeah, really well done. GG, well played. Astrea does win it all here for his team. And Matcherino Esports, they advance on to the upper bracket finals. We're going to be going on a short break. When we return, our second best of 7. See you soon.